Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you, and it's Monday, which of course means it's time for another one of our weekly viewer specials. If this is your first rodeo with that, then every week here on Mondays we showcase games from you all, the viewers. It's always a great way to not only see some decks or strategies that I might not have time to get to, but of course we can cheer each other on and celebrate each other for our cool decks and game. So if you want to get in on this, head down to the description below. There's going to be an invite link to our Discord server, the Hexlex Plex. You can drop your submissions in the viewer special submissions channel in the Master Duel section. Main bit of info I'll need here is your 9-digit player ID. That way I can see your publicly saved replays. Please do make sure that this number is entered correctly and that your replays are set to public. That way I am able to view them. But that's all I got for you for up top, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of your duels. Okay, first duel for this video comes to us from Lux. Lux has cooked up a pretty cool looking deck here that I'm eager to check out. They were talking about it on the Discord server, and I very much wanted to see this in action here. So this is Mitsurugi, very nice Royal Habakiri by the way. Mitsurugi with Magistus as well as Centurion. So Magistus Mitsurugi is something that I've seen on ladder a few times. You've probably seen it around. I've also played it myself, but I've not tried it with the Centurion engine. I did hear a little bit about Centurion Magistus, but that was like literally right before Mitsurugi dropped, so I haven't really had a chance to explore that yet. But looks like we are rocking all the stuff you'd expect to see for a lot of those engines here in the main and the extra deck. And our opponent for this game is going to be on an Invoked Thunder Dragon list here. So let's go ahead and check this out. All right, yep, just want to make sure I got the right replay there. All right, yeah, let's see what we got here. So we're actually going second in this duel. We did open an Ash Blossom, so that's a pretty good sign there. And so is the fact that our opponent's going to go set one and then pass. Yeah, our opponent had a lot of board breaking going second card, so that's not like the most surprising thing to see from them. We're going to go for Spenta F. They're going to chain Ash Blossom here. And we're going to let that resolve, which I really like. We could have used Call By on the Ash Blossom, but we have our own Ash Blossom in hand. So if our opponent, yep, exactly, tries to go for like a Maxi or something, we can still use our Ash Blossom to take care of that. Whereas if we had called by our opponent's Ash Blossom, we wouldn't be able to use our Ash Blossom against their Maxi. Plus, of course, we have other like starters in our hand here, so it's not like we needed that Spenta to resolve. That's one of those like low-key misplays I see a lot of people making. Is, well, pretty much an exact interaction, right? Opponent uses Ash Blossom, they chain Call By while they have one, and then the opponent ends up throwing out a Maxi. So it's like, yeah. Of course, at a time when they didn't need the Ash to, or they didn't need the card that Ash was negating to resolve. That's the main point. Obviously, if it's your only starter, that's a different case. But anyway, getting into this game here, looks like we're leading with our Centurion engine. Pretty standard looking Centurion line that we're seeing here. Drawing off the Atri, that of course means we can't summon it for the rest of the turn, but we have plenty of options in our hand here. I mean, we have Mitsurugi Prayers, right? That's like all that you really need in the grand scheme of things, but Atri draws, Auxilia F, that's going to add the Wake Up Centurion, which we can then activate in order to make us a token. Gonna be a level 4 token there. Wake Up F, we get to send the Phalanx, right? Yep, and then Phalanx is going to revive the Primera Primus, and that lets us go into another 12. It's been a minute since I've played Centurion, but I still remember what to do, mostly. No, I do. Got the Crimson F setting up that Blazar. Feeling a lot better about going into our opponent's face down card now as we go to activate the Mitsurugi Prayers, going for that Habakiri. We can then go Habakiri F in order to summon and tribute the Saji. Saji is going to grab the Ritual. And now we can start doing silly snake shenanigans. Sending off the Kusanagi and the Night Sword Serpent, summon out that Habakiri from our hand. This will, of course, trigger the Kusanagi and the Night Sword Serpent in the graveyard. We get that Chain Link 1 Kusanagi, the Chain Link 2 Night Sword Serpent. Excellent chain blocking there. That is going to, of course, stop against the Ash Blossom, but we are still going to get hit with this Super Poly. Using away our Auxilia and Habakiri for the Mud Dragon. Were they the same? Oh, they are both dark. I thought Auxilia was light. No, Primera Primus is light. Yeah, okay. That's right. I think Legatia might also be light. Did we play that one? Where is it? Here we go. Yeah, Legatia is light. Okay, Auxilia is dark. That's what I got mixed up there. But oh, so that's cool. We were actually able to equip the Artemis with the Spenta, and then with the Crowley, that then let us go into the Fusion Zorora. I haven't used this card a ton in Magistus variants yet, but it does seem really cool. Get equipped, and then send it to equipped for Chorozo. Oh, and then that lets you sync for 12. Oh, that's really cool in this particular variant here. That actually works out very, very well for us. It looks like we've already got 8k damage on board, yet we're gonna swing in for lethal here. That is really cool. It's really cool to see, like, so I know a lot of people, like, aren't super into Mitsurugi because it's everywhere, and I get it, but one thing I really like about this archetype is how it lets so many different decks bridge into each other. I think that's really cool, and to me, that's the epitome of, like, creative deck building in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is how can I bridge from one engine to the other and sort of get as much value out of all these different decks mashed into one as I can. Great stuff. Thank you, Lux, for that submission. Excellent. Let's go and check out the next one here. Alright, this next game comes to us from Kinohara, who is also playing a Mitsurugi pile that I haven't seen in action yet. So this was going to be Fiendsmith Mitsurugi, but it's also playing an Azamina package. Very nice Royal LZ. I imagine that may be part of why we're playing Azamina, but certainly, of course, another part would be the fact that it can spit out Omni Negates as well as just a ton of really solid bodies. So very nice, very eager to see this one in action here, and looks like we are going to be up against Malice of all decks. So yeah, I mean, it's Malice. It's still one of the best decks in the format despite getting 3 of its starters limited. Alright, this is going to be a more back and forth game. We're taking the first turn here, so let's see how we end up doing. Okay, opening hand looks fine enough. We've got Fiendsmith stuff. We have plays. You can never complain about opening plays, even if we do open both Engraver and Tract. Opponent's going to go for an Ash Blossom on the Tract. We're going to have to call by that here. And let's see what all we can do. There goes the Ash Blossom. Tract resolves. That's, of course, going to add the Lurie and then discard it. Lurie F to revive, and then they're going to go into Requiem. It'll be Requiem F for the Lacrima, which will send the last Engraver from the deck. Engraver F. Oh no, we're using Tract F. Okay. To fuse the Lacrima and Engraver in hand into Fiendsmith's Lacrima. Yeah, to get the Engraver out of the hand. I see your vision here. Reviving the Engraver, linking off into sequence. Going for Fiendsmith's Lacrima F, putting back Lurie to deal a little bit of burn. We can go for Fiendsmith's Sequence F, using Fiendsmith's Lacrima with the 2 Engravers in order to summon Desiree. We're going to equip the Sequence to Desiree, and then set and pass. Yeah, not a ton we can do in a situation like this where we just open Fiendsmith stuff, because there's not really a way without committing more extra deck slots to bridge from Fiendsmith to Azamina. You would need Lina and Chorozo to be able to do that, and then of course you wouldn't get Desiree, but firing off that Maxi against them, making sure we get those draws. Opponent's going to go for the normal summon White Rabbit. We're going to chain the Lacrima effect, to which they're going to use Dominus Impulse, and we are choosing to use Desiree here, which allows us to not only to get the Impulse, but also the White Rabbit as well, so that way our Lacrima resolves, and potentially, hopefully, our opponent doesn't have any more follow-up. Requiem F gets to activate here, going for Lacrima again. Lacrima dumps Fiendsmith and Paradise for more disruption, but it seems that our opponent either didn't have anything else or didn't want to play into the Max C anymore. Requiem F giving more buff and more negates to our Desiree here. Gonna battle over while the Lacrima battles here, going to end phase. Alright, they're gonna lead with an Imperm on the Lacrima. That had to be a misclick, right? Surely they misclicked the Desiree here. Oh no! They did, okay, I know exactly what happened, yeah. They wanted to negate Desiree, but they, like I actually just did, forgot that sequence protects from targeting, so can't imperma Desiree with the sequence equipped. That's why they had to negate the Lacrima there. White Rabbit's gonna come down, get negated, they're going into Lingriva, we're gonna use Fiendsmith in Paradise to get rid of that. I actually think that's a smart play. Although even... Oh, because we didn't have Desiree, yeah. I always figure that it's not Fiendsmith in Paradise that sends, you send Desiree and that send. Right, okay. So, yeah, not able to get rid of Lingriva here. We go back up at Administer to add and send a Chessy Cat, was that? Ah, and then they're using March Hare to summon. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, they're going for Splash Mage, revive the Chessy Cat. Here is the Transcode Talker, interesting. Reviving the Splash Mage, and then those two are going to link for the White Binder. I see. Okay, that makes sense. They're going to banish their own Chessy Cat plus some March Hare, which of course will trigger both, as well as our Engraver. I'm eager to see what they're actually building up to here. Alright, Chessy Cat can't draw because we use Droll. That's also why they can't go Red Ransom to just search Malice and Underground here. They're gonna set GWC, revive White Binder, or banish White Binder to revive White Rabbit. White Binder comes back, they don't get to draw because of Droll. Chessy Cat's gonna link into Link Decoder. They're doing a lot of Link spam, but is it gonna go anywhere? Is what I'm wondering here. Here's Hard Scripter. Link Decoder revives, and then... It's Allied Code? Yeah. Interesting that it shows the Allied go for Allied Code and not try to go for like an Access Code lethal. They're really scared of our face down card, I guess. But that stopped them from being able to battle over the Desiree. Because Access Code doesn't target. I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah. But of course, if we pop Desiree, then that will trigger the send effect, so... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I see why they were a little bit hesitant there, but I think... I don't know. At some point, you just gotta go for it, right? So it looks like we're choosing to give up our Desiree here in order to lead into our Azamina plays, going for the Mu-Rishialago. Mu-Rishialago effect is going to activate here. Opponent's going to chain March Hare in hand. But that doesn't really add to the disruptions they have. They can set with White Rabbit, but I think TB11's their last card. Or no, they have an MTP, I think, still on deck. They do, yep, there it is. Okay, Wanted activates, adding Diabellstar. Wanted F to get a draw. Wow, we're kind of on the line here. There it is, there it is. I was like, we're gonna get something at some point that's gonna completely turn this duel around. And that is exactly what it was there. The Habakiri off the Wanted draw is gonna set up our entire engine there. And they're actually using MTP right now. But they banished the White Binder, so that means they can't banish a card, right? Oh, honey. I think you wanted to banish either the Ritual or the Mu-Rishialago. I don't really think either would have been... I mean, banishing the Ritual would have stopped it from coming back, yeah. Which would have saved us here, or saved them, I guess, rather. Oh, but now we have the Great Purification online. So how saved would they have been, really? Like, in the grand scheme of things, right? Like... Because even without being able to add back Ritual, we still could have gotten the Kusanagi and the Habakiri search here. Wow. That was awesome. That was so good. Hell yeah. Thank you very much, Kinohara, for that submission there. We've got time for one more, so let's finish off with that. Alright, our last game comes to us from Fun Enjoyer, aka the one and only, who has yet another Mitsurugi deck that I haven't seen in action yet. This time we're playing Fiendsmith Bestial Primite Mitsurugi. We're adding the snakes to the engine slop control deck to make it even more engine slop, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, they're all here. I kind of had a thought like this recently, actually, of like, could Mitsurugi make a good control deck in a similar style? But I haven't had time to look into the idea yet myself, so very eager to see the execution here. Alright, and then our opponent looks like they are on some amount of Centurion. Ooh, I was gonna say a 60 card, not quite, but close to a 60 card deck themselves. playing Centurion with a lot of offense in here. Okay. Let's dive right on in for this last duel here. Yeah, they were saying in their little description here that this is a great example of just how much a deck like this can play through with all of its different engines. And it looks like we opened both Primite and Mitsurugi stuff here. Going for the Ether Barrel set Lordly Load. Flipping up that Lordly Load, we can activate that and add the Drill Beam from deck to hand. We're going to then activate the Prayers, Tributing Night Sword Serpent in hand in order to add the Habakiri. This will, of course, let us activate the Habakiri in effect, tributing off the Saji, which will then activate in order to add the Ritual. Activating Mitsurugi Ritual, we're going to send Aramasa and Kusanagi, because we opened Night Sword Serpent and already tributed it. Alright, so there's the Habakiri. Aramasa and Kusanagi effects both get to activate here. Gonna add that Ritual back to our hand. And then Aramasa gets us an Incidental Search as well. Oh, we play Futsu no Mitama, so we can grab that. Yeah. And we have the Mirror, so that's another great reason to grab that. Tributing the Mitama from hand to summon the Murakumo from the deck. Now we can use the Mirror to tribute the Murakumo and summon the Mitama from the graveyard. I imagine is what's gonna happen here at some point. Alright, Ether Barrel plus Habakiri are gonna link into the Moon. Yep, and now we're pivoting into our Fiendsmith stuff. And here is that Nibiru from our opponent. We're gonna chain the Murakumo here. And they end up discarding another card. So, fun fact, by the way, and folks on the Discord server were talking about this. If you're ever in this situation where you're activating a Nibiru and your opponent chains Murakumo, don't chain another card from your hand. What you actually want to do is chain the Nibiru. Because what will happen is the Nibiru will still tribute everything on the field, but it won't summon itself because it's in the graveyard. And because it doesn't summon itself, it doesn't give your opponent a token. So, yeah. If you're ever nibbing your opponent and they use the Murakumo, just simply discard the nib. Sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head who said that, but I'd shut you out if I did. My bad. But of course, Mitsurugi plays very well into Nib because Nibiru tributes everything on the field. The Murakumo can simply revive, search, and then destroy the Nibiru here. So that's a lot of the reason why Nib isn't great in this meta. It's still not awful, though, because a lot of Mitsurugi decks will actually end up tributing all of their stuff on board at some point. So there are a lot of situations where if you're willing to wait a little bit, the Nibiru does have higher impact. Of course, if you wait, then you risk your opponent setting up a negate. That might stop the Nibiru. So it's always this kind of like, you know, trade-offs, right? Anyway, we can set up IP plus the Mitama as well as the Drill Beam locked down here. And Call By and another Prayers on top of that, so yeah, I mean, having the Mitama in play with the Murakumo in the yard, that alone seems like a pretty good control option, right? But if you've got your deck built in more of a control style, you can lean even harder into that. Wow, they just have like all the Centurion cards in hand right here. They're going to go for the Atri, they're going to go for the stand-up, but we're going to use the Drill Beam on the stand-up. They can chain the Primera here, but that's still going to leave them with 2 tuners. Although I don't think Primera has used its search effect yet, right? Yeah, here we go. Okay. But of course, yep, we can just use Mitama, revive the Murakumo, board wipe, and then even if they did have plays, well, they don't need more. I think we're probably going to try to grab the Wake Up. That's the one that makes tokens, right? The one that makes tokens, you're probably going to try to grab that and then synchro from there. But without any tuners, can't do any synchroing, so alright. There we go. Thank you very much, Fun Enjoyer, as well as everybody else who submitted for this week. Couldn't do this series without you, and I really do appreciate that you keep submitting week after week so we can keep doing this awesome series. But that's going to go ahead and do it for now. Thanks as always for watching. Let's go ahead and move to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.